Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am your host, Mark Ross, and we are talking with, I will name him for the sake of this interview, Gregory Michael Beasy. All right?
Thank you, Mark Ross, my friend. You are a friend to all veterans. You are a friend to all Americans. You're a friend to me. I have not had the privilege of serving. My grandfather did, Al Beasy. His father claimed to have. His name is on the name on my birth certificate. My father is Gerald Michael Beasy. And in actuality, he signs tax forms, Gerald M. Beasy, DDS PC. And a lot of people don't know that PC stands for professional corporation. It's often used by law firms. And so it kind of has slid through the cracks since 1978, when he had a property in Newberg, Oregon. And all of those properties, all of those companies, most likely, no allegations, but according to evidence I have seen and others have seen, including law enforcement and IRS representatives and so forth, and his CPA, Dan Chapman of Active Tax, who is decided to just ignore it. And his lawyers, Susan Baird of the Baird Law Firm, who has chosen to just ignore it. And Judy Parker, the winemaker's lawyer, who's chosen to just ignore it. They've all been sent these documents and said, hey, can we communicate on this? By myself, by Mr. Schwartz, and by other relatives. That it appears, and no allegations, but according to what we have seen, it appears that there is no birth certificate for a Gerald Michael Beasy. I have not found one. Investigators have not found one. And there's this corporation, Gerald M. Beasy, DDSPC. And I was born Gregory Michael Beasy. My mother says that my father insisted it had to be Gregory Michael Beasy. And I'm going to point something out to you, Mark. G. Michael Beasy matches Gerald Michael Beasy. So if your father, hypothetically, had all his money and companies and property under his autistic son's name and insisted during the divorce that he had to have access to those funds and tricked his disabled child into telling his mom, you got to do this. So she did. And then had all that money. Because I'm going to tell you something, Mark. My father, who says he was in the Air Force Reserves, a veteran, but when I went to go get insurance, they said, no, he wasn't in the Air Force Reserves.
I was going to ask you.
Interesting. Here's something that's interesting, Mark. The times that he said he was in the reserves, going away for, 2 weeks at a time each month, right? Right? Boy, that coincides exactly with when one of the aliases allegedly attached to his name, a name Lawrence Ernesti Jr. in Lincoln, Nebraska, no allegations, but coincides to somebody flying there for a prison term that if you serve a week, you get a year off your sentence. And the individual, if you look them up, Lawrence Ernesti Jr. on the sex offender registry for Lincoln, Nebraska, the first pictures there are the guy who looks really, 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 really close to my dad. And every picture after that is a guy who's paid to live there who isn't my dad. And that's not to say those first pictures are my dad, no allegations. But the guy in the rest of the pictures ain't him. Because when they go take the pictures, they don't fingerprint you. They just take the pictures. And so no allegations, but I couldn't get insurance from the veteran fund because my dad, according to the Air Force Reserves, didn't serve.
He didn't serve.
And my grandpa, though, and I love my grandpa, the Beasy name. My grandpa was very prominent. He built a golf course in Illinois, in Marengo, Illinois. And then he moved up to Loyal, Wisconsin, and ran this huge dairy operation. He was really the unofficial mayor of Loyal and one of my heroes. He and my grandma, Heidi. And so, gosh, Grandpa was just so important to me, and a veteran. And one of the things we would do would be go to the VFW, or it might be the American Legion. I can't remember which one it is there, but it's where the veterans hung out. And it was really the center of town. It still is. I was just there, which is actually why I'm in a secure location right now. On end of October, I was beaten severely. People pounded on my head for about 2 hours. And I lost. It was in Wisconsin. See, I was talking about some possible things that might be attributed to my dad. Possible. And he did some phone calls with me. And it was arranged that I go out to the properties in Oregon and here in Wisconsin and meet with him and other conversations on the phone and things. And see, there's $100 million in companies that might have started off under Gregory Michael Beasy. And then there was $90 million in land sales of a farm that I grew up on it was called Hopewell, Oregon, and then turned into Salem, Oregon. They annexed it. And it's in Polk County, Oregon. And my mother, in that divorce, oh boy, she insisted. Me and my sister, Jordana Beasy Foster, had to own that 500 acres. And then I've been missing for about 40 years because Daddy made up this goofy name, Rikki Lee Travolta. And I was supposed to disappear in the healthcare system. And really, I did. And we'll talk about that. I was misdiagnosed for over 20 years as schizophrenic. Never been schizophrenic in my life. Autism combined with Tourette's. The unfortunate 10% who have involuntary swearing that you never ever see unless you're being raped by somebody like your father, no allegations. The symptoms mimic exactly schizophrenia and no allegations. But if your dad is a DDS, doctor of dental surgery, who might have graduated from Urbana Medical School under his birth name, maybe no allegations, but maybe the medical school records indicate the person who graduated was named Roland Warren Beasy Jr. and just used a nickname, Gerald, but has that DDS that would reflect in Gerald M. Beasy DDS-PC, hypothetically no allegations, then they would be able to, A, tell people their son was schizophrenic while he was being raped. And they would believe him if he started at 4.
This is allegedly.
Oh, yeah, allegedly. Entirely allegedly.
I'm using the air quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy.
I'll tell you something else. I was supposed to disappear, right? And even though I was being drugged as schizophrenic, never having been, and hospital records showing that, misdiagnosed because they talked to me going there to a hospital, Lexian Brothers, went there unconscious after having been allegedly raped that day in 2008. And while I was unconscious, they talked to relatives. Now, not the woman I was going to marry, Marie. I had a ring. I had a newborn son. I was ready to propose. I was a top executive for a company called Otherworld Computing. As the executive spokesperson, I turned it into a $600 million tech leader. I was a partner in Axiatron, the one-man marketing team who did the impossible. Apple had a conference every year, its own conference called Macworld, where Steve Jobs would introduce the latest and greatest. And one time in history, a non-Apple product won. I can't work this damn crap, Mark. It's called executive function disorder, part of autism. But I'm told I'm pretty darn good at marketing. So the one-man marketing team of Rikki Lee Travolta, fictitious person, beat out the $1 million marketing team of Apple and won Best of Show the one time in history for the Axitron Mod Book, the iPad before the iPad, a $19 billion brand. And the only reason I and Andres Haas, the inventor, don't have that 19 billion is our distributor made a little boo-boo and said he had a factory built and was going to manufacture parts and didn't. It is what it is. And so that was me. And I disappeared. First, I disappeared as a child. Gregory Michael Beasley just whoop. I think it was 1988, somewhere around there. Right before allegedly, maybe all the money was transferred out from Gregory Michael Beasley's name without him, me, ever knowing. And my mom never knowing. But that 500 acres, that's in the divorce agreement. And it was just sold for $90 million. Well, 450 acres of it. Because what happened in the interim is it was just farmland. It was a Christmas tree farm that wasn't being anything. And my dad's really, really, really smart, really freaking smart. And so those 450 acres in the meantime, I found out, was developed into prime vineyard land. And part of the brilliance of that is we just had sheep all over the place. And the sheep poop made the soil perfect for a specific kind of grape. And so 450 acres were sold off and under a company name that might just trace back to Gregory Michael Beasley. We're looking into that. But I'm supposed to own it anyway, me and my sister. And we weren't told it's a vineyard. I was told, oh, yeah, Dad, I talked to him on the phone. I talked to him on the phone every year, all my life. And he says, I found out he was telling people I was dead or I was missing. And he told me, the little autistic kid who's being drugged on schizophrenia drugs, give that to somebody who don't need it. Man, somebody had to be hired to wipe my butt. Her name was Joanne Deal. But then I got a good doctor and I got groovy and cool. And I found out that vineyard that he said, oh, it's just a couple of plants. It's not even a business. Well, it's really, really, really big business. It's one of the most prominent ones in the Willamette Valley and in the wine industry. And 450 acres out of 500 were sold off at $200,000 per acre. We've calculated possibly, allegedly, maybe. And so that amounts to $90 million. And this is a man who says he's a veteran. And allegedly, possibly, I don't know, but I talked to the Air Force and they say they've never heard of him. I've asked for a birth certificate. He hasn't produced one. His lawyers haven't produced one. He signed tax forms saying that Gerald M. Beasley DDS-PC is a person. And I have those tax forms. And I presented them to Dan Chapman at Active Tax in McMinnville, Oregon, and said, I think there's some improprieties. And his lovely secretary spent, about an hour on the phone with me and said, we're going to look into this. And then there was no calls back. So I called and she said, well, yeah, I talked to Dan. And he says, this is between you and your dad. And well, we've sent the police to talk to my dad and just say, hey, we're concerned about him. He might be making some boo-boos because he asked me to call him and now he's not answering. So sent the police and the officer said, oh, no, he answered the door with a woman who wouldn't identify if she was his wife or not, but that might be my stepmom, Sarah. I don't know. And the officer said that my dad said, I call him all the time, unwanted calls, which I have no record of. Now, I have a call recorded where I called him and I had a reporter there with me who has affiliation with Netflix, and we recorded that call. And he said, oh, you seem to have a new number. I need to go take care of things. And then he hung up. But then I continued with the interview. And Kaylee and I talked about these possible things, about his many possible aliases. And in the years that I was the drooling zombie, misdiagnosed, pumped full of maximum doses of anti-schizophrenia medication, where if you don't need that, it's like drinking gallons of Jack Daniels. I don't drink. I don't do drugs.
So you were perpetually drunk.
Oh yeah, without drinking. I mean, Joanne Deal had to clean my poopy underwear. And so during that time, I was still pretty darn smart.
Well,
I'm going to tell you something, Mark, if I can.
Sure, go ahead.
During that time, I produced a show called The Polish Cooking Show on PBS because my grandma is listed as Loretta Beasy, the first wife of my beloved grandfather, Al Beasy. And Loretta is 100% Polish. Now, she was dead long before I was ever conceived or anything. And then I produced The Polish Cooking Show with my partner, Jacob Brozek, and his wife, Brittany Brozek, who is now Brittany Harmon. And we could get into Jake, a gentleman from Poland, who beat the crap out of me, allegedly, possibly, hypothetically, and is retaining a lot of my money and property, allegedly, hypothetically. But I produced that Polish cooking show, did the DNA test in 2023 with my dear beloved partner, Deborah Swinford, who has heard a lot of lies and doesn't know to get on the phone with me because she heard a lot of lies from my relatives, not just allegedly, hypothetically, my father, but my mother and her brothers who did this. We don't want to look at the evidence. We don't want to hear anything. Your dad's a charming guy. And that DNA test showed I'm not Polish at all. And what it showed is that Heidi Beasy, my step grandma, is my real grandma. And that's Al's second wife.
Your grandmother.
Yeah, because she used to come into my bedroom and whisper, "I'm your real grandma." And I never knew why until the DNA test showed I'm not Polish. Al's first wife, Polish, dead, wasn't my grandma. Heidi, Al's brother Roland Sr.'s first wife, now Al's second wife, my grandma. Remember that name that Dad might have been born under? Roland Warren Beasy Jr. And here's another interesting thing we found out, Mark, about the supposed veteran who there's no record of with Air Force having served. The death records, along with Loretta Beasy, my now non-grandma, but I still love the Polish people, her son, Dennis Beasy, died in 1949 at the age of 5. And yet we just buried my uncle Dennis in 2023. And here's another interesting thing. My dad was the firstborn, he would tell me. But then all of a sudden, Dennis became the firstborn. And boy, if you look at records, Dennis, who was born, the Dennis that we buried, he was born Warren Beasy, another son of Heidi and Roland. And Warren became the third Dennis, allegedly, hypothetically, because that first Dennis dead at 1949, child. And then somebody took over his identity. And then all of a sudden in 1968, new Dennis, at the exact same time that Gerald Michael Beasy, with no medical history, no school history, shows up on the campus of SIU, Southern Illinois University, and marries the first girl who meets him and is naive enough to believe his spiel, allegedly, hypothetically, drop out of school, support him. Well, he's a quote unquote traveling salesman, maybe possibly going and serving time somewhere. I don't know. Here's another interesting thing. You know that veteran thing, Mark? In 1968, in South Dakota, Gerald Lloyd, quote unquote, Jerry, my dad's favorite nickname, Jerry, Gerald Lloyd Jerry Adland, supposedly died in Vietnam right before the new Dennis, the third Dennis, appears, who turns out to be my uncle. hypothetically switching places with my dad,
Hmm.
so that second son throws off the whole trail, doesn't it? And yet that DNA test unlocked a lot. And so in terms of veterans, my dad, whatever name he's using, and I'm just going to respectfully call him Gerald M. BZDDSPC, because that's what he signs his tax forms as, with a little boo-boo of saying on the tax forms that that is a person, and yet that's a corporation. Boo-boo. Well, there's no record of him in the Air Force. Now, the person buried in South Dakota, Gerald Jerry Adland, wow, isn't that interesting? Same name, same nickname. They were in the military. And so it's very, very interesting. And it all relates to mental health, because we have a broken mental health system where I am perpetually being abused by my father and my mother and her brothers by taking that label disabled, because I always will be. I'm autistic. I have dissociative identity disorder, what was once known as multiple personality disorder, 90 to 95% of the time attributed to a sex offender in the household as a child, which would coincide exactly with my father, hypothetically out. And it doesn't mean I'm crazy. It's actually a really great advantage. It's how I made Empire Today the #1 flooring company in the nation, because I'd use it to my advantage. I would go on HGTV in my denim and talk a certain way. And I put on my suit and tie and hold my Bible, different personality, using it to my advantage. I made it the #1 company in the nation. Disabled does not mean dumb. It just means different, but it means I need accommodation. And it means that you can't go around saying that I am a PCP junkie or a heroin junkie or crazy, which is what my Uncle Mike Landers, my Uncle Kirk Landers, my Uncle Scott Landers, and my mother are telling people with emails as of, I guess, 3 weeks ago to my friend Eric. And they're saying that, I mean, they're part of why I was misdiagnosed for 20 years. And they're saying that now because I went to that Airbnb while my dear, wonderful, beloved business and then romantic partner, Deb, was being lied to by Jacob Brozek, my dear friend who just needs some help because he wasn't taking his medication. And she was being lied to by him, allegedly, hypothetically, and then the Landers, hypothetically, allegedly. I went to that Airbnb to get work done. We're launching a podcast network, Mark. Maybe we'll have you on it because it's going to sell for $245 million. And because podcast networks like ours, they sell for $200 to $800 million. And then Spotify or iHeartRadio or whoever buys it, hire you to run it. It's really lucrative. I'm not stupid. And so we need great shows like yours. So I went to that Airbnb to work on it. And boy, the proprietor, a guy whose name is Nathan Brown. And before he was an executive at Westward 360, a real estate management firm that manages $18 billion in real estate around the country. And part of their scam, he explained on my first day there, was that they rent out Airbnbs under executives' names, allegedly, hypothetically. And well, no rent was due until everything was fixed. And boy, the electricity didn't work, the internet didn't work, neither of the two sinks worked, the cleaning lady never came once. And one of the things that was really prominent was there was a lock. It was broken. Anyone could come in and out. And I and the temp staff and my therapist, who I've seen over the internet, because boy, finding out your dad might be a sex offender, want to have that therapist. She was awesome, Jackie McCann with GMBhelp. And we put in over 60 requests for repairs. And boy, things were stolen, Mark. And all Nathan had to do after I met with Officer Megan Blue was turn in the insurance claim. But instead, he contacted my Uncle Mike and my Uncle Kirk and Uncle Scott, my sister Joanne B. Foster, and they never once got on the phone with me. They believed this gentleman, who, if you look at records in Fox Lake, Illinois, city council records, testimony, sworn testimony, you just find on the internet. In 2022, he was called in front of the council multiple times with neighbors going and taking time off work to be sworn in and say that they found his business practices, they incited fear, that's a key word, and that he is untruthful. And this man they believe. And My credit cards were used. My mail was stolen. The police were told that I was crazy and a heroin junkie. And I'm not, of course.
You know,
And they believed it. And
Rick,
my relatives did.
I'm sorry, Gregory.
Yeah.
Let, let me pause a second, and let me say this to the people that are listening. Um, we're talking about issues that happened with him. He's revealing a lot of things that happened with him in his life, which leads up to this point.
Yeah.
Right? I had questions for you what related.
We went off the track, did we?
Well, that's why I'm trying to bring it back. But I do want to incorporate some of the things that you mentioned too, because you talked about how broken the mental health system is, Rikki, and to an extent, I do agree with you that it is broken because you have people in your scenario that were misdiagnosed and you were given all of these medications for something that you never had.
Right diagnosis.
Never had. And you have two sons, one of which is special needs.
Yeah.
When as you were talking about all of the things that you had to endure in your life, Gregory, it made me think, how can you relate what you've experienced to your son?
And I'll tell you.
How do you make it right?
Well,
I guess that's what I can say. How can you make things better for your son, right? As he's dealing with his special needs issues, brother?
I'll tell you. I will tell you, Mark. The first thing, I can't do it alone. I had millions of dollars. I had a business. I had a home. I had my kids. That's all gone. Everything's gone. I'm in borrowed underwear because of the lies of my father and then of my mother and her brothers repeating them. So I've lost everything. And so I've desperately tried to get a hold of anybody to get my son Christmas presents, to get them groceries. I was buying them a house and a car when I got my life back. And the Landers, Kirk Landers and Mike Landers, Scott Landers, my mother, Patricia Beasy, my sister, Jordana Beasy Foster, they took that money. I understand they gave it to Nathan Brown. I don't know. But Nathan Brown did allegedly, hypothetically, bend me over and insert himself into my body, because rape is not a sex crime, Mark. It's a power crime.
Say that
and
one more
he was
time.
trying everything.
Say that one more
rid of
time.
me.
It is a power crime.
And so I'm going to toss something out for your listeners. I have nothing. I don't have a suit. I have a broken phone. I got nothing. And they're transferring me tomorrow morning to another hospital because I'm in a secure facility now. And Stanley, the guy at the front desk, said that he got calls from a gentleman who said his name was Gerald Michael Beasy and identified himself as my father. Me having arrived at a hospital in October, having my head pounded on. I can't use my legs. Can't see out of this eye. My head is screaming because we have to get a neurologist involved. And all that I care about in life is my kids. And I've got a couple. I have two biological children. Valentino Travolta, who is starting a comic book company in Los Angeles. And he got it. Man, we explained everything to him, and he and I were having a beautiful relationship. And then those Landers, ones who said, we won't look at evidence, we won't talk to witnesses, we won't look at video of the atrocities. They contacted Valentino and his mom, Sonia, my ex-wife, who I still love dearly, called her my time stopper. And they contacted the mother of my son, Jesse, my special needs son, Marie, who I would propose to every day for the rest of my life if I could. She doesn't know I was misdiagnosed. She never got that information because my lovely mother and my uncles, Kirk Landers, Scott Landers, Mike Landers, and my sister, Jordana Beasy Foster, they said, don't talk to Rikki/Gregory until we say it's okay. And well, they've never gotten on the phone with me. And so Marie doesn't know that. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know I was buying her a house. She doesn't know I was buying her a car. She doesn't know that I was sending my Social Security, all I had left, every month to take care of her. She doesn't know that I can't even pay the insurance on the car because I've lost everything. So she doesn't know she's driving her in the car with no insurance. And I want to show you something though.
Okay. Okay.
I wrote a bestseller. It became a bestseller on accident. The publisher accidentally released it as a biography, and it says novel right there in the front.
Now that book, Rikki, that is about you.
This is about this is just fiction. This is just fiction. Okay, it has my picture to save money. And it was optioned by my friends Dan Riley and Peter J. Clark at Portman Pictures. I was dumb. Heath Ledger wanted to star in the movie. And I said, no, I'm going to star in it. It didn't happen, but I have the rights back. So we'll sell it again. But this book, this is a different book. And this is the first thing that comes up on the internet. If you Google the BS name, Rikki Lee Travolta, I didn't make it up. Allegedly hypothetically, my dad made it up and changed with Social Security, the father in my records, to Michael Salvatore Travolta. Made up person, no record of that. Now, here's the cool thing. I went over to Social Security with Joanne Deal, and all that's fixed. Daddy's my daddy again in there. And I don't know if he knows that. I don't know if he knows that all my rights reverted, and I never gave up my rights to my name and anything held under it from the age of birth. So any property, any companies, all mine. He might not know that because apparently he was trying to serve places with crap. I don't know. But this book is the first one that comes up on the internet. Okay. And it says that I'm crazy. It says that I'm schizophrenic. I didn't write it.
You didn't write it?
I can't get it pulled off because I don't own the copyright.
All right, Rikki. Sorry, Gregory. I want us to get back into the mental health piece because you mentioned that you had a personality affective disorder.
Yes.
Now, when were you diagnosed with that? Because I do believe that certain diagnoses, Rikki, is the result of trauma.
Yes.
And excellent. you went through it with
man. I'm still going through it. And I find reasons to smile. But I'm going to point out two things. First of all, I was diagnosed with autism and dissociative identity disorder as a teenager. And I'm going to point out that thus makes my father, whether he wants it or not, and he hid the records, but that was before I was 18. And so even if any of this wasn't true, it was just a fantasy, which is allegedly not, still that makes me his dependent for the rest of my life because it was before I was 18. And in 90 to 95% of cases, dissociation, multiple personalities, is the result of trauma in the household, usually a parent. And what I do is image and branding. And what I don't like about the name is the term disorder, because it automatically creates a negative image, just like survivor of sexual assault or victim of sexual assault. Well, both of those create a negative connotation. And so what I've proposed to the survivors of such atrocities is that we reframe that. This is how I make billion-dollar brands, Mark, is that we reframe that into the heroic survivors fraternity. Now, all of a sudden, we've taken all negatives out. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of ambiguous, but it's all positives. Thus, when we look in the mirror, we're not associating ourselves as victims. And thus, when we talk about it, when people talk to us, they don't automatically have that disposition in their head of victim, patient, negative. Because the other thing, Mark, is people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear that my dad allegedly, hypothetically, had himself up in me. Nobody wants to hear it. And they blame the victim. And so if we take the terminology out of that, then it opens the door to talk. And that's how I make billion-dollar brands, is that kind of understanding of the psychology. And so again, with dissociative identity disorder, well, when I refer to it, I tend to reduce it down to just dissociation, because then that takes the word disorder out of it and it opens up the conversation. If you're selling a product, you need to open the door with a yes. And what we need to do in healthcare is get the yes, get the attention off the victim and stop punishing the victim so we get help for the victim. Now, when it was discovered, all these atrocities that's misdiagnosed for 20 years, with Deborah Swinford and I going to Alexian Brothers and them saying, yes, we have the wrong records. We're going to fix. They still haven't to this day, which is a whole big old lawsuit. It was a lawsuit in 2023, and now it's an even bigger lawsuit. But GMBhelp, Darren Coulter and Jacqueline McHammer, the most brilliant psychiatric team ever. And I was going to endorse GMBhelp. It's a $200 million brand that was provided the seed money by KKR, which is a $1 billion venture capitalist firm. And well, a big old boo-boo happened because Darren, who was going to quit the company, and his background's marketing, and he said, man, you're a marketing genius. I want to go into business with you. But he committed HIPAA violations because he listened to the landers who contacted him without releases of information. And then he acted on that information and did some boo-boos, like tell a crack addict that I had to hire to take me to the hospital information that he was going to institutionalize me based on the input of the landers. But up until that point, I was going to endorse GMBhelp because that is a hero story. The firm, the alternative to hospitals, that discovered the misdiagnosis and rescued a quote unquote genius, but just a person. And that's a hero story. That creates $1 billion brand because then I'm the spokesperson and I have a story. And so that's what was going to happen. And then I escaped Fox Lake. I'm in a hotel, no medicine. I haven't eaten. I've been living on vegetable oil and flour. And I get there and I had a publicist contact GMBhelp. And Clint Cromwell, the senior legal officer of GMBhelp, having been provided the information from KKR, their head of global communications, so all of them knowing. And Clint Cromwell was begged by this publicist, hey, you guys screwed up. Rikki/Gregory is there. He's trembling. He just needs help. He needs medicine. He needs care. Can you get him somewhere? And Clint Cromwell, allegedly, hypothetically on recordings, basically said, and I'm going to paraphrase, these are not his exact words, but it came down to that profits are more important than patients. And that is the big problem with healthcare. Because it's not just GM. Alexian Brothers hasn't fixed their records.
Rikki.
Northwest, there's other ones, yes.
Rikki.
Yeah.
Say what you said again. Profits are more important than what?
Profits. This is what's wrong. Profits are more important than patients. I'm going to say it again so you have a good soundbite. In the healthcare system, oftentimes hospitals and corporately owned healthcare operations have a philosophy of the profits being more important than patients.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because
absolutely,
it is statistically cheaper to let somebody die and settle with their children than to just provide the care needed. I'm the guy who used to go into these companies and settle big old things like this for $50 million instead of $1 billion, because what happens is it gets on the media and then it starts to affect profits. It's all profits. And I understand that profits run this country. That is our society. And I don't have a problem with that. I love this country. God bless the USA. God bless veterans. God bless everybody. To quote my first part, Tiny Tim in the Christmas Carol, God bless, God bless everybody. God bless us all.
Rikki,
But
Rikki.
companies, God didn't invent companies. God didn't invent companies. God
Of course
invented
not.
people.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But
That's what we
Rikki,
got to get back to with the healthcare, with the medical care, with the mental health help, help for people.
you're right. And
Veterans.
speaking of mental health,
Yeah.
you mentioned to me that I saw on your bio that you use it as a superpower, and I believe it. After hearing what you're saying, what you said to me thus far, you have taken such a negative stance on circumstances
Mhm.
allegedly.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically,
Yeah.
you took all these circumstances and you flipped it, and you've made yourself into a name. You made a name for yourself, with all the accolades that you have accomplished, brother. I mean, granted, you said that you lost it all, but I'm going to say this. Sometimes, sometimes, brother Gregory, we have to lose some things to appreciate some things,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense.
Man,
Maybe,
you're talking to your brother here. You are
and
talking to
maybe
your
and
brother.
maybe what you're experiencing is setting you up for a rebirth.
And I mean, it's applicable in so many ways. Because yes, I made a name for myself. I was supposed to disappear. I was supposed to be a joke. Rikki Lee Travolta was offered roles on Broadway. Rikki Lee Travolta made multiple number one brands. Now, I can't do it alone. I can't even function alone. But you give me a high school graduate, and I can make hundreds of millions of dollars. And so then I have the rebirth as Gregory Michael Beasy, who allegedly, hypothetically, has $100 million in companies under my name and then $90 million in land sales under my name. I don't know, allegedly, hypothetically. And reality is reality. One of the things I teach in business is sometimes it's the crappy choice, it's the really crappy choice. And so the whole reason I was talking to Daddy and meeting with him and everything was I said, man, I don't want to ruin the Beasy name. I don't. I don't want you to go to prison for the rest of your life. He's living in a $6 million mansion owned by a corporation. We can guess where that corporation might be, right? And I lost everything. The love of my life was in a homeless shelter, right? And he's saying he didn't have any money, that he didn't have any companies, and he had all this. I could have been bitter about it. I said, come on, let's do an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. You give me whatever, and it all goes away, right? I mean, let's face it, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. Both parties do this. Donald Trump is a great example. He signs NDAs all the time to make things go away. And I'm not saying he's guilty of them or not, but there are NDAs that we know about from court where he signed them so that women wouldn't say that things happened. I don't care if it happened or not. He offered them a lot of money and they shut up. And I offered that to Dad. I didn't even offer it. He suggested it. And instead, I had my head pounded on for 2 hours. And that didn't happen. The NDA didn't happen. And it could still happen. My God, I talked to my cousins. I could keep going on and on and on about the things in the Beasy family. There's a big old manure pit on the property in Loyal, Wisconsin, that maybe allegedly we don't want dug up, right? I don't want anything to happen to any of the Beasys, including my dad. I happen to love the man. I shouldn't be in the same room with him because he does bad things. My jaw is held together with little metal plates. I had to get surgery in the 90s from things done to me as a kid. But I still love. I still love. And so it was the crappy choice, it was the really crappy choice for him. And what was chosen was, I'm going to pretend this isn't on public record. And that's how brands get destroyed. The prime example of that being Dieselgate, where VW committed just such atrocities that they almost went bankrupt, lost billions of dollars because there was civil lawsuits. Then there was like DOJ lawsuits because there was violations of the civil rights and things. I'm not even sure, but that's like billions of dollars right there. And because if there's violations on that kind of level, that it's not just the civil lawsuits, then you're getting audits every year. And you have to spend millions of dollars on CPAs and attorneys preparing for that. And then here's the big factor: consumer trust. Billions of dollars in losses in potential customers, because it's a lot easier to keep your current customer than it is to get a new customer. And in either case, if your reputation is that you're a rapist, or that you hate Americans, or that anything negative, then that affects your consumers. I'm not stupid, Mark. I'm really good at what I do. And so that is why you do an NDA, to make that all go away, to save the brand. Whether it's a family like the Beeses,
Right.
or my dad allegedly, hypothetically not wanting to go to jail, or a company like the Airbnb host who allegedly, hypothetically made up all this crap and used all my credit cards and stole my mail and told my doctors and the police falsehoods. And this was alerted to Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, with myself and Sarah Hipp of the Schaumburg Police Department. And we called 3 individuals at Airbnb, and they still haven't even processed the quote rape report, that there's a rape kit on file with Dr. Jamie Santee. And it doesn't go away, does it? And so Brian Chesky, the CEO, is aware of it. He was sent emails, and different employees, executives, calls were made by myself and a police social worker. And that's what ruins a brand. Bloomberg News did an expose on how they have $50 million a year budgeted just to cover up rapes.
Well, speaking of this expose,
yeah,
because it became.
Sorry, man. We can shut up anytime. I can say figures all day for you.
Let me ask you this: regarding everything that happened, what made you say, you know, I'm going to get into the entertainment industry? Because I'm curious, Gregory.
That is an awesome question.
All of this that happened, bro. You said, I'm going to tackle the entertainment industry.
This is awesome. This is awesome. You did. So first, before I forget, I want to toss this out at the end, but I want to toss it out now.
Give me the short version, Gregory.
Yeah, my man, because my kids don't know where I am. I can't even pay insurance bills for them. I can't send them Christmas presents. And my mom and her brothers have never sent my son Jesse a Christmas present or a birthday present in his life, because maybe they don't like autistic people like me and him. I don't know. But I'm going to throw out a Cash App in case anybody wants to help. I've never begged in my life. I'm normally the guy handing out money, but I got nothing. So it's Cash App is whatever $ GMBhelp, Gregory Michael Beasy, help. And I want to take care of my kids. Maybe we can connect them to me. Maybe I can have a phone that works. Maybe I cannot be in borrowed underwear. And we have Always True podcast network ready to launch. I just need a video editor partner, a social media partner. So I'm going to toss out an email address. I'll make you partners in it. Mark, I'll make you a partner in it. And it's going to sell for $245 million is what it's been valued at. And so alwaystruetv@gmail.com, alwaystruetv@gmail.com. And we have another venture. I have an AI software developer partner in the UK, and we're part of the NVIDIA Inception program. If you don't know anything about AI, it's really prestigious. NVIDIA's pledged to invest $100 billion in OpenAI this year. We're part of the Inception program. We have a venture capitalist analysis on it, and the post-money value is $100 million. And so those are 2 investments that we're taking people on. We need a legal partner to address all this allegedly hypothetically with daddy. And I'll give you a cut. I will give you a big cut. You want to come on as a video editor? I'm going to give you a big cut. Okay. But entertainment. Why entertainment?
Why entertainment?
And it's why I can do this. It's why I can do this. Why is regarded when it's one of the greatest product spokesmen in America. I was the little kid who autistic. They didn't know what it was in 1970. I know I look young and pretty, but I was born in 1970, and they didn't know what autism was. I was screaming. I didn't know what emotions were. I would laugh at the wrong time. I cry at the wrong time. Think of the most worst stereotype of an autistic, quote unquote, retarded kid, because that's what they call it.
Yeah.
And I got cast on accident as Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. My mom had to take me everywhere with her because she couldn't leave me alone. And she wanted my beloved sister, I love her dearly, Jordana Foster. She wanted my sister, then Jory Beasley, to be an actress. And she would take her to Portland Civic Theater, Portland, Oregon, biggest theater there. And any great theater, any city, they do A Christmas Carol every year. The Goodman Theater in Chicago. There's a theater there in Milwaukee that does it. And Deborah and I had a website, #2 in Chicago, Life and Times, #2 theater review site. Quotes that I wrote helped get the Who's Tommy to Broadway. And we were branching that out to different places like Milwaukee, Detroit, so forth. And Deb didn't know that because I was under an NDA. But going back to childhood, I was just playing in the lobby because I had to come along with my mom for my sister's classes. And Paul DeRumis, the executive director of Portland Civic Theater, was going to direct A Christmas Carol that year. And Paul was basically my father because my dad didn't have anything to do with me except the allegedly, hypothetically, really, really bad stuff that nobody wants to do with their dad. And so Paul, a gay man, who never did any of that to me, he became my father later on in terms of just the care and the love. And he saw this little kid, was cute. That's what's gotten me through life, Mark, is I'm cute. And so I got cast. He took me in a room. I didn't know what a play was. I didn't know what an audition was. And he said, "Can you limp?" And I just seen the brilliant Mel Brooks. Oh my God, Mel Brooks, genius. I just seen Young Frankenstein, very comedic version of Frankenstein. And instead of Igor, there's Igor. And he has this over-the-top limp. I didn't know what I was doing. Paul said limp. I did. It was this over-the-top limp. And as far as auditions goes, it was probably the worst audition of all time. I didn't know what an audition was. I didn't know what a play was. But I got cast as Tiny Tim because there's 2 lines. I don't remember one of them. The other one's God Bless Us Everyone. And so I was terrible. Even with my 2 lines, I was horrible, absolutely horrible, because I couldn't even function in life. But it ended up being taped for television because Paul, in addition to being my mentor, in addition to running Portland Civic Theater, in addition to being one of the greatest directors that Portland has ever seen, he was a Mrs. America assistant producer. And it gets taped for television. And I've never met Keanu Reeves. I've met most of your heroes, Mark. I've dated some of the women in Hollywood. I've never met Keanu Reeves. I hear he's an angel, but he's a terrible actor, and he admits that. He admits it. You don't have to be good to be working. And I was terrible, but I was cute, and all of a sudden I was famous. And so I became the star with Vanna O'Brien, who starred with Keanu Reeves in My Own Private Idaho. I became the child star of Portland, Oregon, and Vanna O'Brien and I, in the first year of Artist Repertory Theater, became one of the biggest regional theaters there. We ran for about 2-3 years in a show called Sister Mary, and this just explains it all for you, by Christopher Durang. And so I was this regularly working actor, and I was terrible. Oh my God, I was awful, awful. But I didn't even know what acting was. I just wanted to fit in. And I wanted to fit in life. And so I would go home and I practiced what the good actors did. And that involved looking in the mirror and practicing emotions until I knew how to laugh at the appropriate time and how to cry at the appropriate time. What I'm doing right now, Mark, is I'm masking. I am the retarded little autistic kid who got so damn good at acting, I became one of the top spokespeople in America because most actors recite the lines. The superpower of autism is I calculate things, variables, statistics, and understand the psychology of how you're judged by being a Black man or being a Chinese woman, because I actually become all those things in multiple personality disorder. And I've seen how people are treated. And I understand different perceptions. That's why I'm good at making brands huge. And then as a spokesperson, I'm one of a kind. because I'm not just reciting lines, I'm writing them. And nobody else can really do that. And so Empire Today, I made #1 because Lynn Haldren, the original Empire Man, before I was introduced as the new Empire Man in 2007 at Wrigley Field with Lou Piniella. And actually, Kevin Dillon from Entourage was there, not for that purpose, but I got to chat with him then. And yeah, I made it huge by being this, because Lynn, I couldn't book him on interviews because he didn't know anything about the company, and he'd screw up any interview. And he wrote the jingle for Empire Today, very famous jingle. He was a barbershop quartet guy. So my solution was I'd book him with his barbershop quartet and he'd sing. And then he'd come sit next to me on the couch. And I would talk because they needed him as the focus. I'll give you another example, Mark. Entertainment industry. I grew up, got no hair now, but I was a headbanger, man. Oh, yeah, bald is beautiful, brother. I was a headbanger. I love hair metal. And I had this goofy radio show, and it became a national hit by embracing disability. I forget everybody's name. I always will. It's part of the executive function disorder. And so it was part of the gag of the show because I messed up Lita Ford's name. Lita Ford is the queen of metal. She was in the Runaways. And even if you don't know who that is, did singles with Ozzy. Don't know who it is. It's still a simple name. And I screwed it up because I screw up everyone's name. So I embraced reality. And I said, we're going to have a gag. When does Rikki, made up name, my dad made up, but I thought it was my name because that's what he told me. When does Rikki screw up the name? And that little gag made a national hit. And so I got to hang out with cool guys like Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers, Josh Todd from Buck Cherry, and I met Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses. And Steven hates doing interviews. It's not his forte. He's had a stroke. He's not a great talker. He's a great drummer. And he loved doing that interview with me because I made it fun. I became his publicist. And I resurrected his career because he was not earning a lot, because he had this label as a heroin junkie because he was kicked out of Guns N' Roses 40 some years ago. And he didn't know how to fix that, because sometimes somebody has to talk for you, not just because I'm good at what I do, but if Steven said, I'm not a heroin junkie, no one's going to believe him. But you put the camera on me next to Steven, like I did with Lynn. And I said, Steven Adler is one of the 100 greatest drummers of all time because Rolling Stone magazine said so. And Steven Adler is a Grammy Hall of Fame rock star. And Steven Adler is a rock and roll Hall of Fame rock star. Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who Marie and I got to see when we went to the Grammys in 2007, right before I was turned into a drooling zombie and lost my life. Flea has cut tracks. Steven Adler. And in a few minutes, I changed his image. And the unfortunate thing is, with all those lies that were being told, me being raped, allegedly, hypothetically, in Fox Lake, the gentleman who did it, allegedly, hypothetically, used to work for a company called CDW, big technology firm. And my friend, cuz, Dylan, also used to work for CDW. And the gentleman who ran the Airbnb told me how he could do AI videos. Mark, you've probably seen AI videos, whether you know it or not. They were used during the political campaigns by both sides. I'm going to cite an example. In New Hampshire, AI was used to contact voters, and 20,000 people didn't go to the polls because the AI was so influential, they believed it. And so AI videos went on my social media while I was being raped in Fox Lake. And so my dear Deborah Swinford was under an NDA with the investors. I couldn't tell her what I was working on of the Always True Podcast Network. I couldn't tell her about the documentary that I had filmed about her mom being misdiagnosed and suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. Filmed it, ready to release. bulldozer the Susan Swinford story. Couldn't tell her about the awful horror movies that were about to be released. And instead, she saw these AI videos. So she thinks I'm Satan because she thinks I said all this crap I never did. And it was perpetuated by the lies of those people who I love, but who have never got on the phone with me and are telling people I'm a PCP junkie, a heroin junkie, crazy, haven't done anything in marketing. And I could even read you a text. It says from Mike Landers, "You're not autistic. Your dad is not a rapist. You're not a marketing genius." Should I go on? I won't. I'm going to jump to how I responded to that. I love you. That's how I responded. And I'm going to bring that full circle, Mark. I got started in entertainment on accident, and it taught me to mask. And what we were going to do, I was going to introduce be the spokesperson for Geode. And my caveat for that was that it wasn't about the money. Yes, they had to give me money, but they had to provide pro bono hours for people in need, like veterans, like battered women, like abused children. And it wasn't going to be a loss because then that's advertising dollars. And I turn it into the biggest hero story of all time because that's how you build a brand too. And so not only is that how I do business, I endorse not just for the paycheck, but I insist that companies do good things for good people. And if I get this $90 million from alleged hypothetical land sales, if I get the $100 million, I'm going to take care of my kids. I'm going to take care of America. I'm going to take care of people. I'm going to take care of the things the government can't or won't. I can't solve everyone's problems, but I care. And maybe that's the detriment of autism that I get taken advantage of. The kid in high school who got tricked into things because I would believe anything. I can't choose to hate. I simply love. And so I embrace that. And so that's what I do. And so, yes, I've lost everything. My kids are being told I'm a heroin junkie and a PCP junkie. I'm crazy. That I don't know anything about business. That my father, who there's records of, allegedly, hypothetically raping me and other kids, that none of that's true because my mother and her brothers don't want to look at it. I hired a therapist to sit with them to explain this, and they wouldn't meet with her. Can't change that. And yet, Mark, with nothing, not a cent, I'm still smiling. And that's not masking. What that is a very conscious decision. There's always reasons to cry. God knows I've cried a lot in my life. It's okay to cry. It's good to cry.
Oh, yeah.
But if you find that one reason to smile each day, you can get through a lot. And that's my advice to everybody who listens to you, Mark. And if you want to help me, you contact me through our podcast network because it's not real safe to give out my information right now. Stanley at the front desk got a call from a man identifying himself as my father, Gerald Michael Beasley. Tomorrow I'm being transferred to someplace else. I'm working with police, adult protective services, because I'm disabled. So when this kind of thing happens, it's abuse of a disabled person. But I'd like people to reach me from alwaystruetv at gmail.com. And they'll pass on what they can to me. And I want to help people. And maybe there's somebody who wants to help me. Maybe there's a therapist who wants to talk to me. And guess what? I'll endorse it. Maybe there's a computer company who wants to send me equipment. Maybe just because they're nice. Or maybe because they know for profits, I'll make them huge. Maybe there's people who want to send my kids Christmas and birthday presents. Because my son turns 18, December 27th, and I had to put him through a legal process before he becomes a ward of the state. And boy, the Landers took that money, and Marie doesn't know it. And so I'm asking for help, but I want to help because I need someone to talk to on the phone, and we can be friends, me and anyone across America. They call me America's friend, Rikki Lee Travolta. Well, I'm really happy to have my name Gregory Michael Beasy. And that doesn't mean I'm turning my back on Rikki Lee Travolta. I'm not. It's a brand. It's a really valuable brand. And so it is what it always should have been. A stage name. I didn't make it up. I made it huge.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping it because it's worth money. I'll license it. I'll sell it. But right now I ain't got nothing but love. Ain't got nothing but love for you.
Gregory, how are you feeling right now?
What's that, my man?
How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great talking to you. The second we get off this, I'm going to be in trauma because I'll be alone without my friends, without my family, without my kids, without a therapist, without connection. I have never paid for sex in my life. If I had the money, I'd hire a prostitute right now and not for sex. Because honestly, Mark, I want to propose to Marie, and she probably won't even say yes. I don't even know. It's been however long, but I still love her. She is still the love of my life. And I still love Deb. Her family, the Swinford family, that's my family. She's the one who protected me from the abuse of the Landers, but she got lied to. My dear Trace Gamache, she's confused because people lied to her. But I wouldn't pay for sex. I would pay that prostitute to climb in this bed and hold me because nobody's held my hand and given me a hug or held me in over, God, since August 2024 when all this started. And when you're the survivor of the yuck, to make it palatable, because we want to make it palatable for people so they can listen. You say those keywords, they don't want to hear it. So we'll call it the yuck.
Okay.
When you are the survivor, the heroic survivor fraternity, it creates a different kind of need. Nobody's ever accepted me for me except Marie and Deb and Trace. It's too weird. It is. For me to turn into a Chinese woman. And I call you my brother, Mark, and you are, because I don't see color. But I become somebody just like you.
Yeah.
And that's weird for somebody to see. So while I wanted that happy Hollywood romance, one woman forever, it didn't happen. Because I'm weird. Doesn't mean I'm stupid. Doesn't mean I'm bad.
No.
It means bad things happen.
It makes you. It makes you. And that's okay. And that's okay.
The reality, Mark, is I may never get that happy Hollywood ending. Maybe nobody ever wants to spend forever with me because I'm too weird. Doesn't make me bad. Doesn't make them bad. Just means it's hard to watch somebody change into other people. I don't yell and scream. But sometimes I become a black man. Sometimes I bark like a dog. And when I have my executive career, I'm most smart about it. I have a private office. Not for ego. But if I'm the golden boy of the company, and I start barking like a dog, boy, nobody's going to respect me. So my contract with Empire, my contract with Other World Computing, was I had to have a private office. So if that was going to happen, nobody saw it. It's like it didn't exist. And I, as the survivor of the heroic survivors fraternity, survivor of the yuck yuck. The only time I've ever been told I love you, up until later in life. Marie, I know, loves me, or at least did. Deb, I know, loves me, or at least did. But growing up, it was cute. So girls would pick me up from bars, and I would sleep with lots of girls because they would say, I love you. And I know that's a band-aid. I know it wasn't true, but I needed to hear I love you.
Mm.
And so I associate that with intimacy. And so not even having somebody hold my hand or hug me, much less do the thing that translates in my head to love. And I know it's not. I know that's not love. But life isn't perfection. There's one perfect in my mind. And I spend my life trying to live in his image, trying to attain perfection and knowing I never will, but never giving up. But reality is reality. And I have that disposition from the things, the yuck yuck, that if I have intimacy, it makes me feel loved. And
Rick,
so that's just reality.
Gregory, I'm sorry, Greg.
It's all good, man. As long as it's said with love, man, just don't call me Dick, all right?
No, I'm not gonna call you that. I'm not gonna. I really, I really do. Thank you for sharing your story, and I know that I know you had more to say, but due to time,
Yeah.
I, I I I really do appreciate what was said, because I can tell that you had this on your heart for a minute, and you had no outlet. And uh, I thank you for choosing me to help you with this outlet. You know, if I don't know if it would have been anybody else, maybe they would have stopped you. Maybe they would have, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to stop you, because I felt in my heart like this is something that's been on your chest for a long time. And to see you get that out, I can see relief.
Yeah.
Now for you, this doesn't mean the end of the road, but it means that this is a start.
Yeah. And Mark,
Take,
Mark, Mark,
take
Mark,
the
yeah, go ahead, man.
take time in your position now, brother, to reassess who you are, because maybe at some point you got a little lost with the success. Like you said, maybe you got lost in your stage name. You got lost because you were trying to run from your past, which most people that came from traumatic circumstances would do. We run from it instead of confronting it, instead of dealing with it and healing. You never had that time, brother, to
And
heal.
Mark, that's I'm gonna piggyback on that. And you said, me take the time. I don't need time. I don't need time alone.
Mm,
I know who I am. I need to talk to my friends, to my loved ones about it, to share, and not the yuck yuck,
mhm,
but being cut off from people. Then it's in here over and over.
mm,
It's together that we solve things. And so I'm going to call you my friend, Mark. I need help from people like you connecting to my kids.
mm.
I'll cut anybody in. You do it from the bottom of your heart. Oh, sure. You're going to go heaven. You want to do it for profits? I can make you a lot of money. But you leave me alone, I can't solve it. I can't get my kids to answer the phone after all the lies. But a legal partner comes in, oh boy, everything changes. A
Mm.
therapist gives me a call. gives my kids a call, says, hey, let's connect you two. Everything's solved. See in the Bible, and I don't want to get all biblical. I was born Jewish, and I'm an ordained minister. I don't run a church or anything, but I believe in all faiths, love all faiths. In the Bible, I can point it down to two things. Genesis. Man was not meant to be alone. And that doesn't mean just Adam and Eve. It means people. You can't make a baby with just one person. You need two people, right? And in a congregation, in a church, in a community, in a country, people working together. I might be brilliant or I might be stupid. I don't care. We all need help. Apple, Steve Jobs walks into Apple and there's no staff there. Company goes away. We all need help. And I need help. I need help. I got nothing. I need help. I can make everybody huge. I need help because my kids have been told that dad is stupid, an idiot, a junkie, crazy, and don't even know to get on the phone to find out none of that's true. And so I don't need time alone. I need time with people. And if I have to make you huge to bribe you, I can do it. Want to do it from the bottom of your heart? Please, but reach out through alwaystruetv at gmail.com. I'll give you my number. We'll talk all night.
All right.
And if you want to contribute, Cash App, it's GMBhelp. And maybe we can give my kids a Merry Christmas. And the merriest Christmas would be with Dad.
Yeah.
And then I can say, going right back to Tiny Tim, how I even became able to do this. Then I can say, God bless us everyone.
On that note, I will be praying for you, and you have my number. So you can reach out. We can talk. You know what I mean? My phone is open.
Rockstar.
So,
I'm going to make you give me that number in an email off the air because I don't want you to give it out on the air, but I don't have it in front of me. All right, brother.
all right. I will put your information on my YouTube channel.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
All right.
So I will do that for you, man. I will get that information out there. And if those listening can somehow assist or even reach out and say, what's up, you know?
Yeah.
And he made a good point too. Before I sign off, guys, I just want to say that he made a good point by saying that being alone isn't the answer. Being around people that care for you and want the best for you is the most likely answer.
Yeah.
Because when you're alone and you're in your thoughts, sometimes bad things can happen.
Yeah.
So let's take this story here, ladies and gentlemen, and really do some self-reflection and be available for other people. So when they come to you and say, hey, I need somebody to talk to, be there. Don't make any excuses for why you can't be there. Be there for them, because heaven knows you just might save somebody's life just by taking the time out to listen to what they got to say.
Sometimes it's all it takes.
It
and
is.
if you can, more important than money, if you know Deborah Swinford, tell her I love her. If you know Marie, and I don't want to give her last name out, but if you know Marie and my son Jesse, tell them I love them. If you know my son Valentino, tell him I love him. If you know my ex-wife Sonia, tell her I love her. We'll cut through all the crap. A lot of lies were told.
Well, I got a better idea.
Yeah.
I got a better idea. Why don't you do it?
Can't call him. Can't call him. They won't answer the phone.
But okay, I got you. Yeah. I just want to throw that out there.
I want to. I want him here with me. I want to fly him in here. And when I get done with the hooker holding me in bed, kidding.
Amen to that.
I want to hold their hands. I want to look in their eyes, not tell them about the yuck yuck. Probably
Right.
cry my eyes out, but not in front of my kids, like because they don't need to see that. But let them
Yeah.
know how much I love them, and I never suicide. People face that in those thoughts, and I never have. I've never considered that in my life, but I know a lot of people do, and I never have. But boy, a lot of people would, and it's okay that those thoughts enter your head because you can't stop it. Call me. We'll get you my number. Call me. I will walk you through it. If you
Amen.
need someone to talk to,
Amen to
we
that.
all need somebody. And my kids need to know I ain't crazy. And they won't answer the phone because them landers, they told them not to.
Amen.
We need that spokesperson. And my spokesperson, Mark, and I'm going to be spokesperson for anybody who needs a friend, a father. I love you. God bless
Me too, man. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. As I often say, and I will continue to say, it's okay to not be okay. Just do something about it. With that being said, Brother Gregory, I'll be praying for you, brother. You
you. I
have
love
my information. Stay in touch with me, man. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a good night. Take care, brother. All right. Bye-bye.